The Torah portion this week is called Miketz. Miketz. Anybody know what that means? No? From the end. From the end. So they just translated the end. At the end, it came about, it was, at the end, Miketz, of 2 full years, or 2 days of years. And that's the point at which Pharaoh has his dream. That's 2 dreams. It's 1 dream, but it's 2 dreams. And he sees the 7 big, healthy cows come up, and then 7 nasty, ugly, gaunt cows come up and eat up the healthy cows. And then he sees 7 ears of grain that are plump and beautiful, and then 7 nasty, trash, stalks of grain come up and eat up the good ones. And this is a picture of 7 years. 7 good years and 7 bad years, followed by 7 bad years. Well, that is a picture of, in the day of the Lord, the first 7 years in heaven are good in heaven, but at the same time, running concurrently, is 7 bad years on earth. This is called the birth pangs. And it's titled, the Torah portion is called From the End, Miketz, which is the end. That's what everybody wants to know about. What's the end? What's the end? Everybody wants to know about prophecy and the end. Well, Judaism teaches us about it in specific. Judaism teaches us about it in order. Like, you can know the order of every single thing that's going to happen, what's going to happen, the order in which it's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who it's going to happen to, where it's going to happen, how long it lasts, and all the details of, quote, the end. There's nothing that Judaism doesn't tell us in specific. Problem is, it's in a foreign language. So it's hard to learn. So you need a teacher to teach you what Judaism says about all these things. But what we're going to look at today is about the end. Now, in Genesis 41, in this Torah portion, it says, it happened at the end of 2 days of years that Pharaoh had a dream, and behold, he was standing by the Nile. And then the dream that I tell you about. And then it talks about Joseph interpreting the dream. But in order for him to interpret the dream, what has to happen to him? He's in prison. What has to happen to him? Yes, come out. Up out of prison. Now, the rabbis say that he came up out of prison on Rosh Hashanah. And he interpreted this dream about the day of the Lord. I mean, it was about their time. It was about 7 years, and then after that 7 years. 7 years of good, and then 7 years of bad. But it was also about the day of the Lord. And this is when he interpreted it, on Rosh Hashanah. So what we're going to look at, I have never taught before. I've danced around it. I've been holding back for about 8 years, not teaching it. I've mentioned it. So this is what I want to say about that you are not here by mistake. You are here on purpose. I don't know why, but I've been praying and praying and praying like, God, who are you going to have be at services to when I teach this? Because this is the number one question that everybody has once they learn that it's not Jesus Christ, it's Yeshua the Messiah. There's no such person as Jesus Christ. That's not a name. That's a title. And they just pulled out the word the from, it should be Jesus the Christ in Greek, or Yeshua the Messiah in Hebrew. But they pulled the out. Why? There's no the in Greek. It's that simple. And so everybody translated it Jesus Christ, which is ridiculous. Once you come to the realization that it's not Jesus Christ, it's Yeshua, the Messiah, then immediately this question comes up. And I've heard it, I don't know, countless times in 45 years, and I'm going to teach it to you today. So, at the first part of the teaching, I guarantee you're going to be offended. I just guarantee it. There's no way around it. So I'm asking you, as nice as I can, please hold your opinions and your thoughts and your, anger and whatever you're going to feel. Just hold it to the end and let me get through the whole thing. If at the end of it, you're like, yeah, but what about, or something like that, then we can talk. But I want you to just go with me on the journey, and if you have questions along the way, you can probably ask them. It's okay if you ask questions, but not challenges, because I'll probably answer all the challenges as we go through it. All right, so this is from 1st Maccabees. There's 4 books of Maccabees. Did you know that? 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, and they're in the Apocrypha. The reason they're not in the Bible is because there's some inaccuracies in them, number 1, and number 2, there's some pictures in them that do not correspond perfectly with the pictures in the Bible. The pattern's a little off. The rabbis cannot have that. They cannot have that. Every single thing in the Word of God has the same exact patterns, pictures, models, metaphors, and if that metaphor is off just a little, they didn't put it in the scriptures. So Maccabees is like that, but it's got a lot of great stuff in it. In those days, certain renegades, is that a good thing or a bad thing? This is a bad thing. This is a bad thing. Renegades, I don't know how to translate that otherwise, but it's bad. Rebels, I like that. Rebels. Let's see if this works. Oh, it does. Okay. Came out from Israel and misled many, saying, let's go and make a covenant with the Gentiles around us. So already you know it's bad. It's bad. Why? Because the Torah specifically said, you shall make lo brit hagoyim, no covenant with Gentiles. For since we separated from them, many disasters have come upon us. In other words, since we left the Gentile ways, all this horrible stuff's coming. That's what they're saying. We need to leave all that Jewish nonsense and come to the way of the Gentile, because all this bad stuff happened because we're being Jews. That's what they're saying. This proposal pleased them. Oh, this is a problem. And some of the people eagerly went to the king, who authorized them to observe the ordinances of the Gentiles. What are some ordinances of the Gentiles? Nothing's changed, by the way. They're still the same. Like what? What are ordinances of the Gentiles? Laws of the Gentiles. Like what? Like what laws of the Gentiles? Idolatry, okay. Of whom? Like what?
Pick one.
Pick one. Tell me. The sun god, or Zeus, or Helios, or Baal, or Apollo, or Cupid, or Molech. Well, that's this is in the Greek period. This is thousands of years. 1,500 years after Molech and Edom and, things in the scriptures, okay? So during that time, it's Greek gods, yes? Greek and Roman gods. Jupiter, that's a big one, Zeus. What else? What else is a Gentile ordinance? Their holidays, yes. Christmas, which, by the way, was in existence then. It was called Saturnalia. It was in existence in this time period. Saturnalia, Easter also existed. Ishtar existed in this time. No circumcision was a law. No circumcision by law. What else? How about what you eat? You may not keep kosher. You must eat pig. You must, because it's sacrificed to the gods. So you have to eat pig by law. Now, when I say nothing's changed, nothing's changed. So you're going to have to think about these things. I'm not saying much about them, just touching on them. But they're saying, the king says, okay, yeah, go ahead, Jews, you must keep the Gentile customs. And the Jews go, thank you, king, we get to keep the Gentile ways. And removed the marks of circumcision and abandoned the holy covenant. What's the holy covenant? Circumcision. That's the holy covenant, is circumcision. So it's just saying and to say another way to say it. Abandon the holy covenant. They joined with the Goyim and sold themselves to do evil. When Antiochus saw that when his kingdom was established. Now this is the guy we're going to be talking about. Antiochus was the one who defiled the temple, and the whole story of Hannukah is about winning against this guy Antiochus. Okay? That's who the story is all about. When Antiochus saw that his kingdom was established, he determined to become king of the land of Egypt in order that he might reign over both kingdoms. After subduing Egypt, Antiochus returned. He went up against Israel and came to Jerusalem with a strong force. He arrogantly entered the sanctuary, and he took the golden altar. Which altar is that? Where is that?
The altar of incense?
Yeah, where is it? The altar of incense. No, it's not in the Holy of Holies, it's in the holy place, right outside the Holy of Holies. So he takes the golden altar. That means he went into the holy place. Not even Jews can go on the holy place. I mean, let alone the Holy of Holies. That's only one guy. But priests can go in the holy place, but that's it. And the menorah, where's the menorah?
The most holy place.
No, the most holy is the Holy of Holies. All that's in there is the ark.
Oh.
Where's the menorah?
It's not in the...
I thought the menorah was in there.
It's also in the holy place. No. And that means they went into the holy place to take this. And for the light and all its vessels. All those vessels for, the wicks, trimming the wicks and putting the oil and all that jazz, that's there in the holy place. He took also the table for the bread of the presence. Where's that? That's also in the holy place. The cups for drink offerings, where are those? Holy place. The bowls, the golden censers, where are those? Now these are in what's called the porch. It's the place in front of the holy place. There's knives, cups, bowls, censers, all kinds of vessels in that. It's holy, but it's the porch in front of the holy place. He also took the golden censers, the curtain. What does that mean? He took the curtain. How big is the curtain?
The curtain that divides, it's a handbreadth.
Okay, it's a handbreadth thick. The curtain is this thick, 72 threads thick. And how tall is it in the temple? Anybody know? No. Anybody know how many cubits tall the Holy of Holies and the holy place were?
70? 50?
Cubits, in cubits. 30 cubits. That's 45 feet tall. This thick. 45 feet wide. This thick. 45 feet wide, 45 feet tall. We're talking about a force of probably, 100 men, Gentiles, going in, detaching this enormous heavy veil and taking it out. It took, by the way, 120 priests to do that.
Put it up.
And then, yes, to put it up and to clean it, to take it down and clean it. The curtain, the crowns. What's the crowns? Anybody know? Anybody know what the crowns are? No, not the crowns. There was no crowns on the Torah.
You said last week you had 3 crowns.
Yes, but this is different. This is literal crowns. Those things are figurative crowns. Say it again. Nope, those are called capitals. These crowns, I guess nobody knows about. No, those are the capitals. The crowns were made, this is in Zechariah chapter 4. God tells them to get Yeshua, bring him over, make crowns, plural, out of gold and silver, and put them on the head of Yeshua, the high priest, Yeshua, and say, behold the man who will be the branch, because his name's Yeshua. And he somehow wore 2 crowns, I guess one after the other. Those crowns were taken and put way, way up high in front of the opening of the holy place. As you go into the temple, way up high, probably 50 feet high. And they were in these big, tall windows, and you could go and look at them. That's what it's talking about, the crowns. And the golden decoration on the front of the temple, that was given by all throughout Israel. There were people who gave lots and lots and lots of gold, and then made all these gold vines with great vines and leaves in front of the entrance to the temple. A lot of money, the costly vessels. He also took the hidden treasures that he found. I'm not even going to talk about that. Taking them all, he went to his own land. He shed much blood. That means he killed many, many, many Jews. and spoke with great arrogance. Israel mourned deeply in every community. Even the land trembled for its inhabitants, and all the house of Jacob was clothed with shame. Then the king wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, that all should be one people, and that all should give up their particular customs, except those customs of the king.
Right.
Many from Israel gladly adopted his religion. Oh, yes, let's eat pork and shrimp. Yeah, baby. Yeah. I'm going to get rid of this circumcision I have. They actually had 2 operations that used weights that could return the circumcision. They still do this in some countries. And so these Jews were like, yes, I don't have to do Judaism anymore. Yes. And they gladly adopted his religion. They sacrificed to idols and profaned Shabbat. This is not distant from us. When I grew up, this was the attitude we had. My brothers, 2 of them anyway, still have this attitude. Yes, I don't have to do all that Jewish nonsense. I can eat whatever I want.
And it was religious customs.
Yes, it was religious customs.
All that are religious.
That's correct. Very good. This is the religion of the Gentiles. They sacrificed to idols and they profaned Shabbat. And the king sent letters to forbid burnt offerings and sacrifices and drink offerings in the sanctuary, to profane Shabbat and festivals, to defile the sanctuary and the priests, to build altars, to sacrifice pigs and other unclean animals, and leave their sons uncircumcised, so that they would forget the Torah and change all the ordinances. This has a name. This whole, shopping list of stuff that Antiochus did. Anybody know what it's called?
Hellenism.
Right, Hellenism. That's what Hellenism is. Well, Helena means Greece. Hellenism means the way of the Greek. And this is a religion. And it is the one thing throughout the entire history of Israel that ever won against the Jews. Nobody ever could beat the Jews. Nobody. Not even their idolatry could beat the Jews, except one thing: Hellenism. It's the only thing that defeated the Jews, and it stands to this day. All right. So that they'll forget the Torah and change all the ordinances. Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shavuot, Sukkot. Change it. Shabbat, change it to Sunday. Change.
January 1st.
Well, there's other festivals that they changed Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and all the other festivals into. On the 15th day of Kislev, in the 145th year of that era, the Greek era, this is the Greek period we're talking about, they erected a desolating sacrilege. Now this phrase, desolating sacrilege, it's the same words as what they translate in the Bible as, anybody know? Right, abomination of desolation. It's just a translation, abomination of desolation. There's nothing holy about that phrase. Desolating sacrilege, that's what it is. On the altar of burnt offering, it says they erected a abomination of desolation on the altar. You understand what I'm saying? On the altar of burnt offering. They also built altars in the surrounding towns of Judah and offered incense at the doors of the houses and in the streets. The books of the Torah that they found, they tore up and burned. Anyone found possessing a book of the covenant or who adhered to the Torah, death penalty. That's the religion of Hellenism. 2 Maccabees 6:1-4 says this: the king, Antiochus, sent an old man from Athens. Now he's in Greece, and he's in Syria. Antiochus, he's the king of the Syrian Greeks. He's up in Syria, like where Syria is today. That's where he is. And he sends an old man from Athens, that means a philosopher, from Athens, to compel the Jews to depart from the Torah. In other words, he's teaching Hellenism to all the leadership of Israel, and they buy it. And to pollute the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, or Zeus, like Mount Olympus. And the guy who's over all that, they called him Jupiter in Greece, but in Rome they called him Zeus. But they also called him Zeus in Greece. The temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, having orgies and other abominations. Now all this took place in Jerusalem, in the temple, in the holy compound, the holy precincts. But this is what I want to talk about. It's called in Scripture, this idol on the altar, it's called in Scripture the abomination of desolation. That's what it's called. It's called in Maccabees, just a different translation, desolating sacrilege or abomination of desolation. So what did Antiochus put as the abomination of desolation? All the writers, including Josephus, say this image had Antiochus's face on it. Okay? Now, this got me thinking many years ago. I wonder what that face looked like. And it opened up. I went down the rabbit hole. And it changed my life. And now I'm going to do that for you. So get ready. You're not going to like it at first, but maybe if you think about it, everything will make sense. Everything in the history of Christian Europe up to our day will suddenly fall into place. But you got to think about it. Okay, now I'm going to take a little detour. Listen, I'm going to take a little detour. Since the day I got born again, well, let me back up. Before I got born again, I hated this dude. Hated. I mean, somebody bring him up and I just go, bleh, that's garbage. Why? Because I'm a Jew. And I know, just taking a microsecond of a look, that ain't a Jew. It's not a Jew. Now, these pictures are all from movies. And I'm like, I'm a kid. I'm 18 years old. And I'm thinking about Yeshua, and all these Messianic Jews and Christians keep describing this guy to me. And I'm like, I thought you were believed in Jewish stuff. Yes, this is a Messianic congregation. Then why are you talking about this? And then I'd go off the rails and just yell and scream and cuss at them. So I couldn't communicate. But it really bothered me as a Jew. And they just kept doing it. They just kept saying descriptions of this guy when they were reading from the New Testament. And I'm like, wait, something's wrong here. So I start watching movies, and I see Jesus of Nazareth and The Greatest Story Ever Told and all these movies, and I'm like, sorry, I ain't buying it. I'm just not buying it. Something's wrong here. And then I'm like, wait a minute. Everybody in the whole world basically believes that this is. I'd show them this picture and they all go, that's Jesus Christ. And I'm like, wait, how does the whole world believe that? There's no photographs. There's no sculptures, no paintings. There's nothing of Yeshua. So why do everybody on the planet believe he looks like this? Okay. So then years go by, and I did this painting of Yeshua. And nobody that I showed it to thought it was Yeshua. They're like, who's that? That's a nice looking Jewish man. I said, that's Yeshua. Oh, no. This is Yeshua. This is Yeshua. And I go, no, this is Yeshua. And they'd say, why? What gives you the right to say that that's what he looked like? Because he's not allowed to have long hair. This isn't deep. It's not deep. Jews aren't allowed to have long hair. It's that simple. So that simple little clue made me start studying. And I was like, wait a minute. Where did this all come from? If everybody in the world believes this, it's got to come from someplace. So I started researching. And guess where it took me? It took me to the Greek period, to Hellenism. And I have proof, not conjecture, not my words, proof of where this came from. And I'm going to show it to you today. And like I said, hold on. You're here for a reason. God handpicked who was going to be here today. It's not by accident. So I'm going to prove to you why the whole world believes that this is Jesus Christ. And it doesn't matter how recent the movies get. This is the latest one. What is it called? The Chosen? He's still the same. Look at the hair, how it's split in the middle. See how it's split in the middle and it's long? This means something. And this is what I discovered. It means something. It's code. Yes?
I know that Jewish men aren't supposed to have long hair. But what is the scripture that says that they're not supposed to have
I'm going to get to that.
Oh, okay.
So, this is not arbitrary. And that's what everybody believes, that it's arbitrary. Well, they came up with that, and it sort of makes sense. It's not arbitrary. It means something, that his hair is split in the middle and is long on the sides. I was on top of the fact that Jews aren't allowed to have long hair. Now look at this. This was from 1982. This guy named Wenger, he's a scientist, and he came up with a photographic overlay technique. So before we read that, I want you to look at that. You all recognize the Shroud of Turin. There it is, what it looks like, and there it is in photographic negative. And everybody on the planet believes that this is Yeshua. It's the burial shroud of Yeshua. Well, who's to say it isn't? They've found so much evidence that it's dated exactly at the right time. But really, all you got to do is look at the Bible, and it's there's nothing in that shroud that's biblical. Nothing. First of all, he's got long hair. Secondly, guess what he has on his eyes? Coins. Not only did they figure out the coins, but Wenger was able to figure out how to read those coins in this thing. Yeah. With this a Polaroid overlay technique is what it's called. They read the coins. They know what coins they are. Jews don't put coins on the eyes. What's that about? That's for paying the boatman when you go to hell. And the river Styx. His name is Charon. Thank you. Charon. And you pay him, thank you, sir, for parking my vehicle, my body in hell. And you give him a tip. Jews don't do that. That is idolatry. There's another thing. And there's many, many, many other things that this is opposite from Scripture. But there he is with the long hair, and he's a Jew, and he's in Israel, and it's a burial shroud, except the Jews don't have burial shrouds. It says in John that it was linen strips, like a mummy. Another problem. But leaving all that aside, let's look at what he says. Shroud of Turin provided model as early as 31 AD, expert says. Provided model for what? A Shroud of Turin scholar says new evidence indicates that the facial image on the Shroud of Turin, considered by some to be the burial cloth of Jesus Christ, provided models for depictions of godlike figures as early as 31. I'm going to show you that it goes all the way back to 300 BCE. These findings date the shroud to the time of the crucifixion set by many historians and theologians at 30 AD. And refutes claims that the controversial cloth is a 14th century fake. Says Dr. Wenger, a Duke University professor of psychiatry, blah, blah, blah. He says that he believes that they also indicate that the facial image on the shroud was well known by 30 AD, that the face was well known and represented the deity to the people of the time. This is true. Wenger said that he and his wife and co-researcher Mary found 79 points of similarity or congruence between the shroud and carved reliefs of Zeus Kyrios, dated by its own inscription to 31 AD, when he compared them through the Polaroid overlay technique. In a court of law, 45 to 60 points of congruence is all you need. They found 79. What's he saying?
It's Zeus.
That's Zeus. Like from all the sculptures and stuff of Zeus. That's what they're saying. Well, let's see. He said there is excellent evidence that the facial image of Zeus Kyrios was based on that of the Shroud of Turin. Now he flops it and says the sculptures that they had of Zeus came from this instead of the other way around. Now I think he's wrong about that. I think that this came from the things that pre-existed, which I will show you. I'll prove to you. Lending support to the belief that the facial image of the shroud, was available either directly or through detailed copies to the artist carving the relief. All right. So what he's saying is that that's Zeus Kyrios. Oh, come on, Wenger. How dare you? So what I'm going to show you is that this was planned and carried out from the time of Alexander. Alexander was called, he was the first modern leader that called himself a God-man. Like Koresh, Cyrus, and the Persian kings and all of them before them. They didn't say they were God-men. They said they were God, period. And they showed themselves as God. But Alexander said something different. He said, I'm a God-man. I am fully God and fully man. Fully God. Where have you heard that before? And he said this, I am fully God and fully man. A God-man. You see me expressed on earth, but really, I'm from heaven. Then what I'm going to show you is that by the time it got to Antiochus, which was 186 BCE, 183 BCE, this started in 333 BCE. So how long is that? From 333 to 183. How long is that?
480 years.
480 years?
Something like that.
I don't think your math is correct, sir. It's 200 and some, isn't it? Okay, somebody figure that out. I'm no good at math. All right, so it's 200 and some years. All right? By the time those 200 years went by and then Antiochus shows up, I'm going to show you and prove to you that what he put on that altar was not just his face, but it was him as Zeus, which is what all the historians said. Alexander kept his beard shaved, which was something new, because look at how it used to be. This is Darius and this is Ashur-nasir-pal from Assyria. So way back from Assyria all the way through Babylon and then into Persia, this is what the kings made themselves look like. Long, long, long hair, long, long, long beards, and a hat. That was their glory. All that stuff was their glory. Okay? But now he says, nope, we're going to change all that. Now the God-man is not old. He is eternally youthful. Like Cupid. This became, later on, Apollo or Cupid. But when he did it, he said, let's make the leader clean-shaven. All Hellenistic kings followed him in this, as did Roman dynasties and emperors, until Emperor Hadrian. For Alexander and his successors, shaving the beard was clearly an important way of setting their image apart from both the Greeks of the cities and the Persians and other Iranians, that's Persians, all of whom wore full beards. Alexander not only shaved his beard, he had also died young, leaving no model for aging kings for his successors. In other words, well, what are you supposed to make yourself look like when you get old? Do you grow the beard out or do you stay eternally youthful? So he died too young for him to say, this is how you do it, old kings. So what do you think they did? They just kept showing themselves as eternally youthful, right? So it says, a continued beardless, youthful appearance was also a primary evocation of divine quality. What? What? A continued beardless, in other words, eternally youthful, appearance was also a primary evocation. That means like to preach or to say something of divine quality. What does that mean?
God.
He's God. He's eternally youthful. He never gets old. And he's saying to everybody in all the realm of Greece, I never get old. I am God. And his successors did the same thing. Sorry. Divine quality. Divinized heroes like Achilles and the second generation of Olympians, the god men. Or what do they call them? Demigods? Same thing. They're god men. Like Apollo and Dionysus were beardless and eternally youthful. Now, this comes from the most amazing book I've ever found in my research. And I hadn't found it until this week because we have the internet now. I found an actual book. And I went through that book 15 times and I took notes for weeks to come up with this, what I came up with. And I just found it on the internet. It was hard. It was really hard to get a PDF of it. But I got it. And this is from Hellenistic Royal Portraits. Okay? I did this research back in, like right after it came out, 89. Okay. So there's Alexander down at the bottom. Don't be fooled and think that's what he looked like, because he didn't. That's just him as who? Not Zeus. He wasn't Zeus. He showed himself like Apollo and Dionysus, the eternally youthful. Zeus is, he's always got a beard, right? Zeus? Well, this is different. This is the eternally youthful God. Okay, now here we go. In order to understand what Yeshua looked like, and you can know, you have to know what the opposite is. And here's what I found. It's all about the hair. It's all about the hair. And what they did with the hair was extremely important to them. When I say them, I mean all the Hellenistic kings for 200 and some years. So here's what you're looking for. Number one is the hair length. The divine length of hair, in other words, the God length of hair, was about shoulder length. That length grew longer as the Hellenistic kingdom progressed. It got longer and longer. This is called an anastole. See this little, the Superman thing, what is that called? Curl, the Superman curl? That's the anastole. That's why he has it. Which Superman was designed by Jews. Did you know that? This is where they got it. They got it from Alexander. And the anastole, which was a big thing. The anastole is a tuft of hair standing up from the brow with a slightly off-center part, sometimes exaggerated to look like rays of light. So this little whoop became, okay? Then the wreath. Now the wreath is this beautiful, like a wreath, like you put on your door. Well, you shouldn't, but if you do, like the wreath that goes around, it's a wreath of hair. Why? That's his crown in front. But then he's got a crown in back. See that thing? That's called the crown. Well, it's created by a band that goes around, and it puffs up that crown. So there's the wreath, looks like a laurel wreath or a crown around the oval of the face, but then the diadem. It's a thin crown set down onto the long hair, causing it to puff up into that wreath and go into a crown on the top. Although not hair per se, it's important because of how it made the hair look. So we got 4 things that this was required. Think about this. Who's the next king coming up? Oh, his name is Soromates. All right, Soromates, you have to have these 4 things in all your imagery. You have to have the hair length, the anastole, the wreath, and the diadem. And it started with who? Alexander. Okay? This is Alexander, by the way. In this bust of Alexander, perhaps the original royal prototype, notice the crown of hair in the back, which may or may not have been created from wearing a very thin diadem. Notice also the divine length of hair to his shoulders. All right, so then time goes on. Alexander dies. And what happens? Anybody know who leads instead of Alexander?
Lysimachus,
Wow. Seleucus, Lysimachus. Good. Ptolemy. Come on, baby. One more. No.
I don't remember the last one.
Cassander. So this is in the Bible, by the way. His kingdom, Alexander's kingdom, he dies and it turns into 4 kings and they take over. They have to continue this tradition. So here it is even closer. What is that called? Come on. All right, look at the part in the hair. So now it's becoming like this, Superman curl, but then there's a part right behind it, up till it gets to the crown. Then it becomes a crown. Now to us, we're like, what's the big deal? To them, this was God. And he had to look like this. So you got the divine length of hair down to here. It's going to get longer. What's that thing in the front called? No, the thing like this. The red. The wreath. The wreath. On the back is the crown, and the front is the wreath, anastole, and then the divine length of hair. In this bust of Alexander, the anastole is clearly divided or parted in the middle. This will develop later into a more widely parted and flattened look, which means something. Remember, all of this means something to them. Clearly surrounds the youthful face, the wreath of divine hair. Look at that one. Now these are coins. This is where it all is shown. Not in the busts as much as the coins. The coins tell us everything. Does this guy look like the same guy as this? It's stylized. And look at that hair. What's happened to the hair? Way longer and curlier. Okay? That's because it's him now as Zeus. This means the longer the hair, the more it goes towards Zeus. All right? Here's Alexander as Ammon or Zeus. Now, Ammon is another god from Egypt that's equatable to Zeus. He's got ram's horns on the diadem. Can you see that band? That thin, that's the diadem. And there's ram horns connected to it. Why does he have ram's horns on? Because that's Ammon. Ammon is a goat god, okay, in Egypt, which is equatable to Zeus. Ram's horns on the diadem, the main attribute of Ammon, Egyptian, or Zeus, Greek or Roman. On other coins, he is seen wearing bull horns as Dionysus. These are ram's horns. Sometimes he's wearing bull's horns. Why? So he can be Dionysus. You know what his other name is? Mithra. You know when Mithra was born? 25th of December. He was a bull god. And he died, and he was resurrected, and people worshipped him on, quote, Saturnalia, which became Christmas.
The little hair curl looks just like the ram's horn.
Yeah, his anastole does look like the ram's horn. All right. On other coins, he's seen wearing bull horns as Dionysus, often appearing as a bull in Greek mythology. Now, I would like when I say things like Mithra and Saturnalia and all that, you need to do that research on your own. Don't believe me. Believe what I'm showing you. But if I'm not showing you, you don't have to believe it. But you do have to prove it or disprove it. All right, so now Alexander dies, and his kingdom is divided into how many generals? 4. Now the one from Syria that became Antiochus is this guy, Seleucus, or Seleucus. We don't know how to pronounce it. I don't know how to pronounce it. Other people do. Seleucus. Okay? What is that? The diadem. What is that? The crown. What is that? The wreath. What is that? The anastole. Now we're going to go to Scripture. And this is about the four generals. The male goat, this is from Daniel 8, I'm sorry. The male goat magnified himself exceedingly. As soon as he was mighty, the large horn was broken. That's Alexander. And in its place came up four conspicuous, that means big horns, toward the four winds of heaven, north, south, east, west. Ptolemy, south, Egypt. Seleucus, north, Syria. Lysimachus, anybody know where he was? No?
Egypt?
No, that was Ptolemy. Lysimachus was in where? East, but where? This is like all around Persia, and it is east. All around Persia and all those areas like Babylon, Persia, Media, all those areas there. And then in Greece was the other guy, Cassander. Okay? Out of one of them came a small horn. It grew up to the host of heaven. Now look at this. Out of one of them, out of one of the four horns, came what?
Small horn.
A small horn, a little tiny horn. It grew up to the host of heaven, the armies in heaven, and caused some of the host and the stars to fall to the earth. Who did that? The little horn that came out from one of the four horns. This is the false Messiah. And that false Messiah came out from one of the horns. So the question is, which horn? It's this guy, Seleucus. And who's the false Messiah that came out of him? Antiochus. Now, when I say the false Messiah, I mean he's as close a picture as we have in the Bible of the false Messiah. He's not the false Messiah. He's still to come. But if you want to know what the false Messiah is going to be, it's going to be exactly like Antiochus. Look at this. That little horn, removed the regular sacrifice. What's the regular sacrifice? How many daily sacrifices are there?
Like 70.
2. One in the morning, one in the evening. It's called the Tamid, the daily sacrifice. That means in the temple. He's going to stop the sacrifices in the temple. This false Messiah is going to stop sacrifices in God's house. Does that sound like anything familiar to us? No. Christianity. There's no sacrifices. Don't do that. Stop.
We don't need that anymore.
Stop that Jewish stuff. Okay, we'll talk more about that. But this is what Antiochus did. He stopped the sacrifices in God's house. And the place of his sanctuary, of God's sanctuary, was thrown down. Okay, now here's Ptolemy. He looks totally different, doesn't he? Except he's still got all the things. He's still got, look at his anastole. What did it turn into? A snake, a cobra. This is what the Egyptian gods would do. That's where the anastole came from, was that cobra from Egypt. What's the biggest city at that time, during the time of Alexander? What was the biggest city in Egypt? Does anybody know? Alexandria, named after Alexander. And so he became the god down in Egypt before he became the god up north. All right, so here's Ptolemy the Fourth, and there's the anastole, and here's the wreath, and his crown is now a hat, like the Egyptians had. So but it's long, and this replaced the hair. So why do you think they came up with long hair? Because it was already being done with these things in Egypt. I don't know what this is called, by the way. I just call it a hat. It was already being done in Egypt. And so they reproduced that look with hair instead of wearing a hat. Now we come to Antiochus. This is where everything comes together. All the pictures of Jesus have that little beard, right? He's got no beard here. Does he?
Clean shaven,
He's clean shaven.
other than the one in the middle.
This is a blow up of the back side of the coin.
Oh, you're right, yeah.
Okay.
Who's calling Nemes?
Say it again.
Nemes, N-E-M-E-S.
Nimis. Nimis.
Yeah.
So that's the name of that hat thingy that the Egyptians wore. The Nimis. Okay. All right. I want you to look at these pictures. These are of Antiochus, the bad guy. On these coins, there is something added to the four things of the hair. Anybody tell what it is? Yes. See that? That's called a circe, which means a circle. It's the halo. The god had to have a circe at the time of Antiochus. Before, it didn't show up. It showed up with Antiochus, the halo. This is where the halo came from. And then it just developed and morphed over time. But what's this? What's this? Come on, guys.
Diadem.
Diadem. Look at the ends of the diadem. Those beautiful little flowers. Yes? Isn't that luscious? This is really important. Why? Because androgyny and homosexuality was really important to the Greeks. Really important. They looked at it as one of, quote, the higher goods. The higher goods was homosexuality. Not just homosexuality, pedophilia was one of the higher goods. Plato played with little boys. The great philosopher Plato, he had boy toys. And this was called the higher good. Well, that's the Greek culture. And here he is with his, with his beautiful little dainty ends of the diadem to show that he's man, but he's really not so much. You know what I mean? Just sort of both. This is really important. Androgyny. I mean, if you've seen the movies of Alexander, they tone it down, but they show him as homosexual. And then he's with a woman, and then he's a homosexual. Then he's a woman. It's androgyny. It's, whatever. Who cares? It's all good. So, Antiochus, anybody know what Epiphanes means? God manifest, God in flesh. That's what Epiphanes means. He called himself God in flesh. Look at this. I mean, that hair is getting longer and curlier, and don't think he looked like this. He didn't. He didn't. He was just an old dude. But he makes himself eternally youthful. Cannot have a beard. But on the back of the coins, look what's on the back of the coins. This is Zeus on a throne, and I don't know if you can see it, but in his hand, can anybody tell what's in his hand? It's kind of hard to tell. Can you tell what's in his hand?
Scepter?
No. It starts here in his palm, and it goes up to here, and then up. It's Nike. It's a woman. She's about this tall, and she's holding up the earth or something, and she is his vestigial twin. I don't know what she is to him. But Nike was this woman, this girl goddess, that always appeared with Zeus on the throne. I don't know what that's about, but that's what there is. But know this, it's Zeus on the throne, and it ain't Zeus. Who is it? Antiochus. And that's what all the Greek on the coin says. This is Antiochus, Zeus on the throne. That's what it says. But look how he looks here.
Very different.
He's got a beard.
Yeah.
And you don't see the what's called the diadem. Now it's a full-on crown. And look at that hair. Look how long the hair is. So now he's melding the two together. One guy with two images. So what do you think he's going to do with all his coins after this period? Just take a guess. What do you think he's going to do with his image?
Hair's gonna get longer.
Hair's going to get longer, and
He'll have a beard.
he'll have a beard. That's what happens. So now he's full on saying, I am Zeus, when he adds the beard. You understand what I'm saying? So you have to watch the progression, and you have to pay attention to the details of the hair length, the anastole, the wreath, the diadem, and now the circe, the halo. Daniel 11. The king will do as he pleases. This is about Antiochus. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god and speak horrifying things against the God of gods. And he will prosper until the indignation is finished. What's the indignation? The birth pangs in the day of the Lord. The 7 years on earth that were prophesied first by that dream of Pharaoh. Until it's finished. He will show no regard for gods. He'll magnify himself above all of them. Now, this is what God says about Antiochus. That's amazing. These are God's words about Antiochus. Do you understand what I'm saying? Everybody says, well, Hannukah is not in the Bible. Where's the longest prophecy in the Bible? Anybody know? Daniel what?
7?
No.
It's 2 chapters.
Right?
It's 3 chapters. 10, 11, and 12. Longest prophecy in the Bible is Daniel 10, 11, and 12. Guess what it's about? Antiochus and the Maccabees. And from Alexander all the way through to the day of the Lord. Here's Antiochus. What did he do?
Beard.
He added the beard, made the long hair. He's still got the wreath. He's still got, now the diadem
Now the halos are too.
is, yes, but look at the diadem. Now it's like leaves.
Yeah.
That was for the Roman. Now he's got some influence from Rome coming in, saying he's the Roman god. Okay, this is the clearest one we've got. See that, those laurel, it's called a laurel, the green leaves of the diadem. And yeah, you can see that circe, that halo, really good in that one, this one, this one. Matthew 24. Now this is what everybody quotes when they talk about the abomination of desolation. They don't quote any of this stuff before. And listen to what I'm about to say. If you don't know what Yeshua is quoting in the Old Testament, you simply do not know what he's saying. It's that simple. You cannot lift any words or any actions or anything that Yeshua did out and read it on its own. It must be nested within the Jewish culture that birthed it, or else you have any idea, no clue whatsoever what he's saying. You might get lucky, you might, and hit on something correct. Very, very doubtful, though. Yes?
You know how in our coins, from the penny to the quarter, from the edge, it's got a razor rim?
Yeah,
If that's from the search head.
I really don't know. This one has a raised rim around
Yeah,
it.
that's what made me think of it.
I don't know. Matthew 24. Therefore, when you, the Jewish people, see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing b'hakodesh, in the holy. It doesn't mean in the holy place. And that's how it's translated, in the holy place. Where did he put this idol?
On the
On the
temple.
On the altar. That's the holy, hakadosh. It's in the court of the priests. That's hakadosh. So just because it says the holy doesn't mean it's the holy place. Let the reader understand. Then those who are in Judah must flee to the mountains. Whoever is in the field must not turn back to get his cloak. Woe to those women who are pregnant, to those who are nursing babies in those days. Now, we just read a couple sentences. I had 15 verses pop off in my head from the Tanakh. I know what he's quoting. But woe to those women who are pregnant and those who are nursing babies in those days. Moreover, pray that when you flee, it will not be in winter or on Shabbat. When is winter?
Over there, I don't
In
know.
Judaism. When is winter? There's only winter and summer. When's winter? No.
Yes.
No. From Sukkot, when we start praying, he pours out, he makes the wind to blow and the rain to come. From Sukkot, from the 7th month through to Passover. It's that side of the year. The other side of the year is summer. From spring, from Passover back down to Sukkot. That's summer. From Sukkot up to Passover is winter. He's telling us what side of the year this is going to happen on. Okay? That's what he's saying. What's going to happen on?
When the birthday started.
Abomination of desolation.
Oh.
He's telling us when it's going to happen. Well, it also says it in the Tanakh, but that's another story. So he says, for there will be great, I hate this word tribulation. I hate it. It's not a good translation. Trouble or anguish is better, or pressure. That's even better. And it's two words. All of those are tsarot, or tsar, tsuris, problems, or chavalim, which means birth pangs. There will be a horrible birth pangs, such as has not occurred since the beginning of the world until now, nor ever will again. So, this is what he put on the altar when he did the abomination of desolation. All right? And the hair was very specific. So here's what I'm going to say to you. I believe this with all my heart. I think I can prove it, and that's why I believe it, that the face that he had on that altar, the abomination of desolation, was what the world thinks of as Jesus Christ. It's not a leap. It's not a big thing to go, oh my God, how can you say that? I mean, all you have to do is look at history. There's Antiochus. There he is. So now time goes on. 96, 95, 88, 83. We're getting closer and closer to the time that Yeshua comes. And look what happens over time. What happens? Do we have the hair length? Do we have the hair length the whole time? Yes or no? Do we have the divine length of hair all the way up to here? Do we have the hair length all the way up to here? Do we have the anastole? Sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't. Do we have the diadem? Do we have the crown? Okay, so it goes on and on. But now, with Mithridates, something changes. He goes back to that original thing that Alexander did when he made that long, long mane of hair like a lion, that Antiochus did, and he says, yeah, I'm going to do that. I am Mithra, which is the baby that's born on Christmas. That's Mithra. I am Mithra, which was a Persian god that became a Greek and Roman god, but it started at Persia. And he made that hair, really long and curly. This is important. What's he missing? What's he missing? Right. None of these guys have the beard. Right? And this is after Antiochus. Well, this guy's got mutton chops, and so does he. It's not a beard. He's got mutton chops. You know, when the sideburns get all big like that. But there's no beard, is there? All right, so it's like, what's going on here? Why'd they take that away? Don't worry, it'll come back. So let's talk about this guy, Pharnakes. These coins are of Pharnakes the second, ruler of Bosporus. Do you know what Bosporus is? There's a little land bridge between, which way are you? Europe and Asia. And right there at that little land bridge, there's a waterway that goes between it. That's called the Bosporus Straits. This right here on the edge is Constantinople, where Constantine became the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire. And right there at that Bosporus is where all of Greek, everything spread in the Holy Roman Empire. Holy Roman Empire. That city that it was before it was Constantinople, it was a Greek port city. And he took all that Greek stuff, Constantine did, and he spread that into the, quote, Holy Roman Empire. So now you have the Greco-Roman Empire. Now this is where this guy's from. Bosporus. It's a Greek port city. These coins are of Pharnakes, the ruler of Bosporus. Look at the date. This is about 30 years before Yeshua was born. You can see that the crown of hair and back is becoming less emphasized. You see that? You still got the crown, but that's not such a big deal anymore. And now we begin to see the most important innovation that leads us right into the mythical Jesus Christ image. The wreath of hair in front has replaced the anastole. Now the anastole is not that big a deal. Now it's been replaced by they took it away. He's taken it away. It's not a big deal. Replacing the anastole by flowing more along the length of hair that has grown longer. This innovation exposed more of the forehead, an important facet. More forehead means more brain. More brain means the thoughts of God. More godlike qualities. This is to reveal the importance of the thoughts or brain of the God. Now look at this. Who do you think that is? That's Roy Matalkis. Has nothing to do with Jesus. Who do you think? This guy, this is my favorite. Look at that. That's Jesus Christ. Isn't it? This is Roy Matalkis. And it gets even more like Jesus Christ after this. But this guy, I mean, come on. So look at the dates though. 132 to 154. Now we've just gone 150 years almost from Pharnakes. 150 years goes by almost. Nothing changes. They're all the same. And by the way, this guy was old, fat, and bald, but he makes himself look like this. And guess what? Roy Matalkis was old, fat, and bald, but look at him. After the time of Yeshua, the height of the Roman Empire, the Hellenistic royal portraits have taken their final shape. This is it. It's now concretized. It's done. The crown is flatter and has been melded with the diadem and stylized into a bowl crown. See that? It's now stylized into this is hair, by the way. It looks like a hat, but it's hair. And it's stylized into this bowl crown. Same thing here. So there's curly hair and then real long curly hair. The crown is flatter, has been melded with the diadem and stylized into a bowl crown. The wreath of hair has sprouted into a more long feminine coif, falling to the shoulders. The anastole has been replaced by a more flattened top, and this is important. Every single image of Jesus Christ has his hair flat and split in the middle, doesn't it? I've never seen one that doesn't, ever. Not a picture, not a piece of art, and my training is in art education, in art. I've never seen an image of Jesus Christ that didn't have flat, split hair. This is where it came from. The most important change, also a very light and sharp Greek beard was added. The standard God-man image is done. It's now concretized. Now look at this guy. This guy is Jesus Christ, Sotomates.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous. I mean, if this ain't Jesus Christ, nobody is. Right? I mean, look at this. If this ain't Jesus Christ, nobody is. And this, look at the date. 172 to 211. 200 years, 170 to 200 years after Yeshua. So what I'm showing you by this is to say, for 150 years, I mean, once it was set, done. We just continued. It just stayed the same, only more so. It just stayed the same, only more so. Now here's a whole bunch of early pictures of Jesus Christ. I mean, look at this one. This is not early, obviously. It's a pen and ink that I did over a photograph. What am I saying? Out of my mind. A stupid piece of art that I found, and I just traced over it with pen and ink. Look at that. Why? Why that big giant forehead, split in the middle, flat on top? Why? I mean, why? They're all like that. Even this, look at that big giant wreath of hair. Wreath, Circe. This one is one of the earliest pieces of art of Jesus Christ from 400 some. This is just not good art. But they tried to show the top of the head like this while he's looking straight at you. They didn't know how to do perspective. But this is flat, split in the middle. All right. That is basically sodomati. So my question was, why did it, so what? It was concretized like after Yeshua? Yeah. After Yeshua. As the Greek period kept going on and it morphed into the Rome period, Rome took it and just blasted it out to the whole world. So here's why it's such a late date. Well, by the 2nd century, what year is that? What year does the 2nd century start? 200. By the year 200, Ignatius of, 100.
Oh, yeah.
100. By the year 100, Ignatius of Antioch began teaching, quote, Christians should not partake in Passover. 100, that early. You know, everybody says, like when did Hellenism take over the church? Well, that was Constantine in 3. No, it was not. It was 200 years before that. As early as 100, they started separating the Jews and Judaism from anything having to do with Yeshua. Justin Martyr, 100 to 165, and other, quote, teachers were already claiming that the church had replaced Israel. That early. So, does this surprise you that it's this date? 172 to 211? It's already done. The Jews are already gone. They've already murdered all the Jews in Israel, and now the Gentiles are flooding into the body of Messiah, or whatever. They've stopped going to the synagogue every Shabbat, like James said to do in Acts chapter 15. Go to the synagogue every Shabbat, Gentiles, and you'll learn the Torah. Just do these 4 things that will tide you over till you learn. Just learn in the Shabbat every single week. That's done. That's a long, distant memory. And now the Gentiles are flooding in with this in their heart. And so they go, well, that's our God. We'll just say that's Jesus. The God-man. Just believe. Just believe. This is not, it's not far-fetched. You don't have to do any leaps of logic here. All you have to do is know some history. Tertullian, 160 to 240, and other church fathers like Origen were calling the Jews Christ killers in both their preaching and their writings, which we have. So you can research this on your own. Look how early that is. The Council of Nicaea, this is what everybody brings up. The Council of Nicaea with what's his name? Constantine. Changed the date of Yeshua's resurrection so that it would not be identified with Passover, stating, it is unbecoming beyond measure that on this holiest of festivals of Easter, we should follow the customs of the Jews. Disgusting beyond measure to do anything Jewish. Henceforth, let us have nothing in common with this disgusting people, the Jews. But look at the date. It's already 300 years after Yeshua. And it started 200 years before that.
Yeah, that's just where they kind of
So look at this picture of Sotomatis again. Is it any wonder that it was concretized in that time period after Yeshua? Because this is what everybody believed. Yep. True that. Okay, so because my background's in art, I'm like, okay, well, how did they show you Yeshua, the Jewish Messiah? What's the earliest, quote, Christian art we have? So I researched it and found out. And guess what I found out? Same exact thing. The wreath of hair, the anastole, the diadem, the crown. This is from the Trinity sarcophagus from 320 to 350. It's the earliest piece of, quote, Christian art there is. Nothing Christian about it. Nothing biblical about it. Nothing Jewish about it at all. It's total paganism. This is supposed to be the Jewish Messiah.
Buck naked?
But he's got a fig leaf.
Oh, yeah, right.
Come on.
Pardon me.
Look what's on either side of him. Lions.
Lions.
It's like, yeah.
Hi, guys. That's what he's saying. Look at his face. He's eternally, well, of course, they were horrible artists. They didn't know how to do art. But look at his face. He's eternally youthful.
Right.
No beard, just like Alexander with the wreath of hair. These two also, these are from the same, they're different panels. Look at this. This is Jesus. Eternally youthful. Only he looks like a girl.
Yeah, it does. Real feminine.
He's blessing a child. Sorry, he's healing a child. Sorry. Right here. He's healing a rabbit. And here, this is Yeshua. Look at his hair. Curly, curly, curly. Beautiful coifs. Yes. And what is he doing? This is when Peter, who's the only one who looks like a Jew, of course, is denying the delicious Christ child.
He looks like a little fat cherub.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was gonna say that. Big puffy cheeks. Like a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
I could teach you for about 15 minutes on what you just said about the cherub, but I'm not going to. I know your back is hurting. I know. I shall have mercy upon you. Okay, so there it is. The same old thing. Same thing. Eternally youthful with all the stuff on the hair. Look at these. These are Alexanders. One's from Dresden and one is Alexander and Hephaestion. That was his chick. She has the wreath of hair too. Because she's a god. Look how young he looks here.
Yeah.
That don't look like Alexander. It looks like a little boy. It is Alexander as a little boy. Eternally youthful. Compare it to those. It's the same exact style. What year did this come to us? 320s. 320s to 350s, right? Well, they're hearkening back to 300 BCE. You see what I'm saying? Nothing changed. Nothing changed. This is a little later. Look at the date. Where's the date on this?
359.
359. That's supposed to be Jesus. Yeah, thank you. What is that underneath? Anybody know?
That's Zeus, I think.
That's Poseidon.
Oh, Poseidon?
This was a big thing in the Greek culture, that underneath the gods, Poseidon was there, and this is the waters of the world.
Oh, okay. Right.
Greek! A Greek culture with Poseidon. And there's Christ. This is problematic, I think. A little problematic. So this is from the Junius Bassus sarcophagus, 359, from the caves of, quote, St. Peter in Rome. But look at the date. That's early, 359. Apollonic Christ, handing Peter and Paul the law. Apollonic, what does that mean? Like Apollo. eternally youthful. That's what Apollo was, the eternally youthful god. Apollo was also called Cupid in Rome. Eternally youthful. The god of love. Jesus loves you. This I know. Where does it say in the Bible Jesus loves you? Where? It never says that, not one single time. It says God so loved the Jews that he gave his only begotten son. Period. He doesn't love everybody. He loves only those who come into the camp of Israel, so they can be loved. Well, there's Apollo, Jesus. Now this one's even weirder. This might be a girl. It might be. All the scientists, what are they called? The ones who research this stuff?
Archaeologists?
No. The historians, thank you, and theologians can't tell if that is a Roman prophetess, like the ones who would be in like the Temple of Delphi and like that, the Roman demon worshipping prophetesses, or if it's Yeshua. They can't tell. Enthroned Christ. Maybe. From 350. Marble, Rome, perhaps Apollonic Jesus, or a Greek female teacher, we can't tell. I can't, exactly, androgynous. So, for years and years, I've been I'll go, oh yes, Jesus Christ. And people get so upset. Why? It was planned for him to be androgynous. Why is anybody surprised that priests diddle little boys? Why? It's planned. It must be to keep that androgynous religion going. It's one of the higher goods. I mean, I'm not ignorant. I don't want to do anything to make people mad at me, but it has to be said. It has to be acted out and shown to be what it is. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This is an actual piece of art. This one freaks me out. That is a nice composition from 400. That's a good piece of art. Better than in the Renaissance, in a lot of the Renaissance. It's got good flow, it's got good composition. It's ridiculous, but this is Jesus. Look what's big here. What was added that's big here? The halo, the Circe. Now the Circe's come back big. He's got the crown, right? He's got the divine length of hair. He's got, the crown, the wreath, the divine length of hair, and the Circe. And this is 400. Yes, and clean shaven. Eternally youthful. He's ascending to heaven. That's what's happening here. Now look at this one. This is from 4 panels. This is ivory, and this is ivory. From 4 panels of the, quote, Passion. I hate that word. The Passion. Why do they call it the Passion? That's ridiculous. Who's he in love with? Passion, he's passionate. Don't tisk. Who's he in love with? It's passion. It's an absurd thing to say. Why don't they say the torture? Because then it would make it a little too Jewish.
Too honest.
It's the torture of the Messiah. We can't say that. Okay, so look at the big picture first. This is so weird. He's carrying the cross, and there's a guy down on the ground going, "Here, go this way, sir." I don't know what he's doing or saying. That's kind of weird. But this is him carrying the cross. Where's he carrying it to? And why are they being so nice to him? This guy behind him is saying, "This way, sir. Follow me." There's the rooster up on top. So I assume this is Peter, because he looks a little Jewish. "I deny you, sir." Kind of weird.
Why did they have water?
This is Pilate. "Take some water, sir." So here's Jesus. Look at that hair. Whoo! No beard. He's still eternally youthful God. But that hair is getting longer. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, it's strange. That cross is, it's more of an image or a symbol than it is a real thing. And that's what's important. These are all images, they're symbols. They're not real. None of it's real.
Hey, I just saw something. The one behind the quote Jesus, his hand.
This guy?
Yeah, look at his hand, because that comes up later on also in the art, the way they do this.
This guy?
Yeah.
He's going like this.
Yeah, I know, but remember the hand?
This guy's got 2 fingers.
Yeah, but remember that whole thing that we learned about the hands, how they, that symbol.
This guy has 2 fingers out, not this guy. Right? Is that what you're
That
saying?
one looks like it has 2 fingers.
No, he's going like that. Come this way, sir. This one's got 2 fingers. He's
Yeah.
That means something. We talked about that years ago. This means something. Like when they always show Jesus like that, when they show Jesus like this, and the other saints, or going like this in blessing, and so now the Pope goes, I bless you. That means something. Comes from Greek Hellenistic idolatry. Well, let me put it this way. Every single thing that the church, the quote church does, comes from Hellenistic idolatry. Everything. Every act, every word, every motion, everything. And that might bother you, but that has proven itself to be true over 45 years for me. There it is.
Right?
Look at the date. 500. So now we have, again, there's bad artwork because they want you to see the top of the head split in the middle and flat, plus the full-on face, but they couldn't do it. And this is a mosaic. Look at that Circe. Woo! That halo has exploded into a big thing. All right, so now by 500, none of it has anything to do with the Jewish Messiah. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. In look, in lifestyle, or in personality, the break is complete. So now, there's sotomates. So, I may be a freak, but every time I see these pictures, that's what I think to myself. And I've been doing this for 30 years now. Thinking this foolishness. Hello, sotomates. Mm-hmm. And then I see Messianic Jews describing this to me and saying, we love him so much. It's disturbing. I mean, Christians do it every day, all over the world. But to see Messianic Jews do it, this is not right. This is Hellenism. Okay, now we're going to talk about one last thing. The abomination of desolation. We're able to, can you get your head wrapped around that the image on the abomination of desolation was Jesus Christ? Can you get your head wrapped around that now, or at least get close to it? Okay, if that's true, that's going to happen shortly in the day of the Lord. Why do you think the whole world will follow him? They've been following him for 2,000 years. No, what am I saying? They've been following him for 2,300 years since Alexander. Nothing's changed. He's just going to come again, looking like everybody's been talking about and waiting for. And he'll go, come on, guys. Yes, sir.
Yeah, they won't recognize Yeshua.
All right. So, remember, he sat on the throne as Zeus with that little Nike chick in his hand, whatever that means. I don't know. Maybe you can tell me when you research it. Isaiah 44, those who fashion a graven image are all of them futile, and their precious things are of no profit. Please understand that I lifted this out of a big, long prophecy that gives lots of details about creating a dude out of gold and silver and wood. The man shapes iron into a cutting tool, and then he's fashioning it with hammers, this idol, with his strong arm, with strong arm. Another shapes wood, right over her head. Another shapes wood, he extends a measuring line, He outlines it in red chalk. He works it with planes and makes it into the form of a man, like the beauty of a man, so that it may sit in a house. What do you sit on?
Throne.
What does a God sit on? A throne. In a house. Whose house? God's house. Ezekiel 8, it came about that the hand of the Lord fell on me, and he stretched out the form of a hand and caught me by the seat of my head. What does that mean?
The CT of your head or your
Pa'at that I don't have.
and your beard.
No. Right here, this two corners, and right here, I'm supposed to have pot, but I do not have pot, because when I was a kid, my parents didn't train me to make pa'at. So now my hair, it goes like this, like bozo, if I let it grow out, because I wasn't trained properly as a Jew. And it makes me mad, but that's the way it is. Jews are supposed to have pa'at. That is a seat of the head. We have 4 seat, 4 corners, yes? Where's my other seat? Yeah, okay. We have 4 seat that we wear, and we have 4 seat on the head. I don't have my 2 seat here. This is what God grabbed him by. The seats, the pa'at, and pulled him up to heaven. He stretched out the form of a hand, caught me by the seat of my head, and the Spirit lifted me up to the entrance of the north gate of the inner court of what? The north gate of the inner court of what? The temple. Where the seat of the idol of jealousy was. The idol of jealousy is, what's it doing with the seat? Because it's sitting on the seat as Zeus. So, some of the prophecies have the idol standing, and some of the prophecies have him sitting. So what does that tell us? Right. He got up. In other words, the idol comes to life. Yes? Does that make sense? If some of them say he's sitting and some of them say he's standing, how did he go from sitting to standing or standing to sitting? He moved. But he's made out of wood and gold and silver. He's not real. He's an idol. But he moves. You get what I'm saying? 2 Thessalonians, the man of lawlessness, Torahlessness, the man who wants no Torah anywhere. The Hellenism king, the king of Hellenism, the son of destruction, who opposes and exalts himself above every so-called God or object of worship, so that he takes his seat in the temple of God. This is in the New Testament. What's he quoting? This stuff. This is what he's quoting. He takes his seat in the temple of God, displaying himself as being God. Takes his seat. What does that mean?
He was standing.
He was standing, he goes and he sits down on the throne. How does that happen? And it's called an idol. It's not a guy, it's an idol. Here's how. Revelation 13. I saw another beast coming up from the earth. He had 2 horns like a lamb, spoke as Leviathan, the beast from the sea monster. He exercises all the authority of the first beast, the Leviathan, and he makes the whole world worship the first beast, whose fatal wound, means he died because it's fatal, yes, was healed. He comes back to life. He deceives those on the earth to make an image to the beast. He makes an image. Where does he put that image? In the holy. Yes? And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast.
Came to life.
So he comes to life so that the image of the beast might even speak. Not only does he get up and come sit down on his throne, now he's talking. He's a cyborg? Is that what you said? The anti-cyborg. Okay, so I would caution you to ever say the word Antichrist. There's no such thing. It's false Messiah. Christ means Messiah. It's not his name. It's false Messiah. Well, here he is. Here he is. He looks like Antiochus. He looks like what the world thinks of as Jesus Christ. So here's the only scriptures we have about the abomination of desolation. Daniel 11, he'll do away with the regular sacrifice. And this not what Christianity has done. From as early as 150 years after Yeshua, 100 years after Yeshua, they're saying, stop Judaism. Stop it. Christ has what? Done away with the Torah, right? That's what everybody in Christianity says. They misquote Romans 10:4 that says Messiah is the telos, or target of the Torah. And they see, put an end to the Torah. It doesn't say that. But everybody says that. Why do they say that? Because that's what the false Messiah does. He puts an end to sacrifice and does away with the regular sacrifice. And they'll set up the abomination of desolation. 12:13. And from the time that the regular sacrifice is abolished and the abomination is set up, there will be 1,290 days. I've got a whole teaching on the time periods, so we're not going to deal with that today. Matthew 24, when you see the abomination of desolation, which was spoken of through Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy, let the reader understand. Why would he say that? Let the reader understand. By the way, it says it twice. It says it in both Matthew and Mark. They both record that Yeshua said, let the reader understand. Why? Exactly. You're supposed to know this. It's in Daniel, guys, remember? That's what he's basically saying. Exactly. Mark 13, he says it here. Now, when you see the abomination of desolation standing where it should not be, where should it not be? In the holy. Let the reader understand. Then those who are in Judea must flee to the mountains. Now, here's what I say. You don't have to believe this. You don't have to believe this. I'm saying this. But I've been around 45 years as a Messianic Jew. I know a little bit because I've spent I've really dedicated myself to studying. And this is what I believe. You don't have to believe it. I believe that, quote, Christ, what people think of as Christ, that guy, has put an end to the sacrifices. This has been the work of the church for 2,000 years. And it's work. They work at this every week. Don't turn back to Judaism. Whatever you do, and he's talking to Gentiles, like they had anything to do with Judaism. And this happens in multiple tens of thousands of teachings I've heard. Don't turn back to Judaism, church. They don't even know anything about Judaism. He's telling Gentiles, don't turn back. When I say he, I mean these preachers. Thousands of them. Don't turn back to Judaism. Christ has put an end to the law. Well, that's the end of the sacrifices. End of Judaism. This has been the work of the church for 2,000 years, almost. To defile the holy. This is the work of the church. This is what I believe. You don't have to go there if you don't want to. To defile the holy, to end the sacrifices, and to make war on Judaism. It is very, very difficult to go through life knowing this, believing it, having researched it, having it in your mind every day, and be nice to Christians. And for years I wasn't. Because I found this out and it made me mad. It made me extremely mad. And I'm trying to be who I'm supposed to be as a Messianic Jew, a servant of God, the chosen people, and at the same time know this and be around believers. And it was hard. And I got really nasty and really mean. And in our first congregation, I was an idiot because of this, because of how I dealt with this. I knew it, I saw it, but I couldn't communicate it. I was just too angry. Well, now I'm not angry anymore. So now I can communicate it, I think. I'm looking at your eyes. You don't look like you're really ready to crucify me, so I must be doing it okay. So I think I can communicate it now. This is a big deal to me. So I don't want you to flip a switch and turn into an idiot. That's what I don't want, like I did. Because this is the end of the story. And we have to be loving, and we have to show what the God of the Jews is like. Extremely loving, extremely funny, and extremely direct. And direct at the same time. It's hard to do. Daniel 11 says this, forces from him will arise, desecrate the sanctuary fortress, do away with the regular sacrifice. They'll set up the abomination of desolation. And what happened because of that? The Maccabees rose up and fought, literally fought, physically fought, and killed hundreds of thousands of Greeks. And there weren't hundreds of thousands of Jews. There was only a little over 30,000 at the greatest. And this is God talking. God talk. Can you imagine God saying this about you? But the people who know their God. Do you want God to say that about you? You know me. Now, go kill. That's what he said. And I'll show you this. If you really want to know God, you have to know the whole story, not just part of it. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's really, really hard to do. But the people, and this is what God said about unbelieving non-Messianic Jews. The people who know their God. Yes, it was before the time of Yeshua. Who cares? A Jew's a Jew. The people who know their God will display strength and do. That's all it says in Hebrew. And do. Vasu. They translate it and do mighty works or something like that. It doesn't say that. It just says they'll display strength and they'll do. Those who have insight among the people will give understanding to the many, yet they will fall by sword, by captivity, and plunder for many days. This is in the birth pangs. For days. It doesn't say many days. It says for days in Hebrew. Well, that's the price. They're going to die. We're going to die. Possibly. If the day of the Lord comes, it's coming very soon, when the birth pangs come, those of us who are not resurrected, because the resurrection takes place right as the day of the Lord comes, same day, same moment. Those of us, if there are people who are not resurrected and they know their God, they're going to die, quite possibly. Zechariah 9. Now this is God talking. As for you, because of the blood of my covenant with you, Israel, I've set your prisoners free from the waterless pit. Return to the stronghold, O prisoner who have hope. This very day I'm declaring that I will restore double to you. That's the kingdom. But then he says, I want you to see this. I will. This is God talking. I will restore double to you. And the same God who says, I will do that, says, I will bend Judah as my bow. Here's Judah. I'm going to fill the bow with Ephraim, Israel. Well, who's God going to shoot arrows at? I will fill the bow with Ephraim. God will stir up your sons, Zion, against your sons, O Greece. This is God talking. God is calling for a holy war. To this day, God is calling for a holy war between Judaism and Hellenism. And it has to start with us individually. And I mean, I used to say this, but I didn't really realize how huge this is. I mean, I was stupid. I was like, dancing through a minefield. And I had no idea that there's mines all around me. And all I had to do was take one wrong step. And guess what? I did. And I lost everything. But now I really can see that God is calling for this. I don't have to do anything. God is going to make this happen. He's going to start talking to Christians. And when I say that, I include Messianic Jews. He's going to start talking to Christians who follow that guy, and he's going to start telling them, make war on the Hellenism in you. It's hard to do. And I'm talking to mostly Gentiles. It's not as hard for me because I'm Jewish. For you, it's going to be really hard because almost everything you've been taught is wrong. I mean, if you compare it against this template, you can probably see that almost everything you've experienced in your life and in this culture is wrong. It does not match up with Judaism. It doesn't. So it's going to be tough. But I guarantee you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it. If my wife, who was raised Gentile, can do it, although she's Jewish, she was raised totally Gentile, didn't even know she was a Jew. If she can do it, you can do it. But she's done the work. And what this means is studying as a Jew. Studying what God gave the Jews. And really joining yourself with the body of God, which is Judaism. The way of the Jew. Judaism. Ism means of a group. That's all. The way of the Jew. It's easy to not. It's easy to not. It's easy to just stick a kippah on that guy and a talit and go, oh, he's our Christ Messiah. You see what I'm saying? It's easy to do. Just stick a kippah on that guy. So, we need to pray. Because, listen, I've never taught this, ever. I've been a believer 45 years and I've never taught it. And that tells me, because I felt like God released me to teach it, that tells me that something's happening. And that I believe he's going to start telling this message to other people, not just me. There's going to be others who have this message. So I would appreciate it if you'd pray with me and for me, because this is tough. Would you agree that this is tough? All right.
It's a hard truth that most people don't want to hear.
It's a very hard truth. Lord, thank you so much for making the Word into the Torah, into a human. And that you loved Israel, you loved us, Israel, so much that you gave that Torah in flesh as a human. And everything he did and everything he said reflected your Torah. And I ask, Lord, that you would please open this message up and create Maccabees in the world. I ask that you'd raise up an army of Maccabees before they went bad, before they went south. Raise up an army of Maccabees that Hannukah would be lived out again, and that your people would make war on themselves, on the Hellenism inside themselves. Give them understanding all over your earth. Everybody who's in your body, I ask that you would give them an understanding of what Hellenism is, how destructive it is, how dangerous it is, how horrifying it is, how arrogant it is, and that you would reveal it. You would reveal it by your Spirit. And give strength to all those who want to open their mouth about it. And give them wisdom in the name of Yeshua. Amen. Let's stand for the first part of the Amidah. The first part of the Aleinu. Just this first page. Been a long time since we've done it. Aleinu l'shabeach la'adon ha'kol, l'ted gedula le'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kagoye ha'aratzot, kamishpachot ha'adama, shelo sam kelkenu kachem, v'gor aleinu kekol hamonam. Let us adore the Lord of all, who in greatness created the world from of old. He has not made us like the nations of the earth, nor has he made us like the families of the land. He has not made our destiny like theirs, or cast our lot with all of them. Va'anachnu korim umishtachavim umodim lifnei melech malachei hamalachim hakadosh baruch hu. And we bend the knee and bow in worship and give thanks to the King of Kings, the Holy One. Blessed be he. Shabbat shalom, everybody.